Happy Wednesday, and thank you for choosing to spend your lunch hour with me, Diana Master, on this midweek broadcast that gives you the news making headlines in Namibia's local communities, Africa's vast regions, and headlines from across the seas. Stick with us for these stories lined up in this lunch hour. Sustainable Development Goal Indicator Framework for 2021 was officially launched this morning. Khomas State of the Region address highlights the state of sports. Women in the health and care sectors across the globe face a larger gender pay gap. A Nigerian Catholic priest abducted last week was found murdered on Tuesday. Those are the headlines, and this is NMH at 1. In today's midday news update, South Africa's acting public protector has announced it will issue a subpoena for President Cyril Ramaphosa to answer questions about the robbery at his game farm in 2020, in which $4 million is alleged to have been stolen. Ramaphosa missed an 18 July deadline to reply to country's corruption watchdog. In June, the watchdog opened a probe over potential breaches of the Executive Ethics Code after Ramaphosa was accused of bribing burglars to keep quiet. Questions are being asked as to why he might have had that much cash stored at a personal property. Now remember to engage us on our social media platforms and leave your thoughts in the comments as we share stories from local communities on the other side of this short break in our visual news segment. And now let's get into today's visual news clips. The Sustainable Development Goal Indicator Framework for 2021 was officially launched this morning. According to the Prime Minister, Sarah Kukongelwa Amadilla, Namibia needs to regain the progress that was lost during COVID-19 to meet the goals at hand. Yolanda Nell was there.
The availability of timely and quality data impacts on the effectiveness with which our developmental agenda is implemented. I therefore would like to commend the National Planning Commission and Namibia Statistics Agency for the efforts that went into developing these measuring tools that we are launching today. The purpose of these tools is to measure our developmental efforts in line with the decision taken at the 2015 UN Summit in New York, where leaders of 193 countries committed to implement the post-2015 development agenda with 17 sustainable development goals and 169 targets. By committing to these goals, countries have agreed to align their national priorities in a clear and transparent measures to overcome global developmental challenges. Namibia is implementing the Agenda 2030 through the Harambee Prosperity Plan 2 now. The National Development Plan 5 is cascaded into respective sectoral plans in our first National Indicator Framework launched in 2019. The framework will be updated after every 2 years. The version of the framework that is being launched today presents the first update of the SDGs NDP 5 Indicator Framework of 2019, and it complements Namibia's second voluntary national review report on the implementation of the SDGs towards Agenda 2030.
There's a new restaurant on the block, and Chris Isaacs, chef and founder of Memphis Barbecue and Blue, talks about what the new restaurant has to offer for both food lovers and upcoming artists looking for a platform to showcase their talents. Let's take a look.
Hello viewers, I'm joined by Chris, who's the chef here at the Maltese Barbecue and Blues. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing fine, how are you?
I'm doing great. How do you feel about the official opening of our
Well,
restaurant?
it's a dream that has actually become a reality now. We started off with food trucks,
Yeah.
and we had several along the way. Some of them are well known. We started off with a concept called Tekgeruk, which was like a smoker concept.
Yeah.
And our food here in the restaurant is based on that concept.
Yeah.
Then we had like food cartel, we had Burgermeester, which did more burgers. And basically all our food has been tried out at markets and events and food festivals and things like that. And that's how we put our menu together. So it's nothing that people haven't tasted before, but it's now in a restaurant setting.
In the restaurant setting. and then what exactly do you guys specialize in? Any meals that you guys specialize in?
So what we specialize in is our smoker, things from the smoker. So we do what is called hot smoking. Basically, it's a form of American barbecue. So we cook everything in the smoker. It's standing right at the back. What we put in there takes anything between 3 and 14 hours to take out. So it's a very long cooking process. I mean, what we have now, the ribs that smoked for 6 hours. So it's not like cold smoke like your German kind of smoking. We use hot smoke.
Okay, and is the restaurant going to be open? Like, what is going to be the business times?
Okay, so we open Tuesdays to Saturdays. On a Tuesday we close at 5. On a Wednesday we open late. We also have a burger night on a Wednesday. Thursdays we are thinking of something. So what we did now before is we do world cuisine. So we might do one Thursday Mexican, Turkish, Indian. We're going to take a different country every Thursday and do some of that food, but more a street food version of not the restaurant stuff. And then obviously on a Friday night we have live music always. On a Saturday night there's always some kind of entertainment as well. We're going to start karaoke evening soon and open mic nights. Basically it's all to the young upcoming artist that doesn't have a platform to show themselves and to practice on. It's a platform for them to come and show the talent, practice to sing in front of a crowd, and that was the whole idea behind it all.
Now, the Khomas State of the Region address by Khomas Governor Laura McLeod Kashirua included discussions on the state of sports. Yolanda Nell attended the event. Let's have a look.
The Regional Sports Directorate initiated and coordinated sports policy development and facilitating the implementation of sports development programs, creating a conducive sporting environment by building and upgrading sports facilities, encouraging interlinkage and networking between all sports organizations, and providing funding for different codes of sports. Even there, the COVID-19 control measures severely restricted sports activities. Khomas region was still a hive of many diverse sports events that took place, such as motorsports, amateur football, netball, hockey, and rugby. The pending plans for 2022 are the renovation and upgrading of the Independence Stadium and the same Nuyoma Stadium.
We're now going to take a quick ad break, and when we return, we will be taking a look at the news headlining Namibia's daily newspapers. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. We now take a look at what the lead stories are in Namibia's daily newspapers. Starting off with the Namibian Sun front page, 2 fish rot accused have submitted an application seeking leave to appeal Judge Cobus Miller's decision not to withdraw from the case. Former Fisheries Minister Bernard Esau and former Investec manager Ricardo Gustavo applied for Miller to withdraw from the fish rod case in which all the accused will appear before one judge, but this was rejected. Miller has handled cases involving Esau and Gustavo in the past, and the two claim he will be biased if he remained the judge in the matter. Gustavo's legal representative Trevor Brokaroff argued during court proceedings yesterday that another court might come to a different decision. They hope to obtain leave to appeal so that the Supreme Court can hear them on this issue. In another story, the paper reports that the regional secretary of the SWAPO Party Youth League in the Kavango West region, Bonifacius Muronga, says he and the mother of his child, who got him arrested last week, have always exchanged money with no obligation to pay it back. On page 3 of the Namibian Sun, women in the health and care sectors across the globe face a larger gender pay gap than they do in other economic sectors, earning on average 24% less than men. This is according to a new joint report by the International Labour Organization and the World Health Organization, which indicates that in Namibia, women in the health sector are paid 6.8% less than men. The report took into account factors such as age, education, and working time, and noted that the pay gap highlights that women are underpaid for their labor market attributes when compared to men. In another report, Ida Hoffman, reparations proponent and former SWAPO member of parliament, said it is sad to see how the deepening factions are tearing the Ovaherero community apart. According to her, it is shameful that the community had to pay respects and ask for blessings from their ancestors and forefathers in separate groups as opposed to the united community they should be. Now moving over to the Republican, the Fuel and Franchise Association was able to hold a long and hopefully fruitful meeting between service station owners and the Deputy Minister of Mines and Energy, Cornelia Shilunga, on Monday evening. According to FAFA Chairman Henny Kruger, the most important issues that were brought to the Deputy Minister's attention are the profit margin in the regulated industry, which is $1.13 per litre and was last adjusted 5 years ago. The industry is also very worried about greater participation in retail from bulk importers who already claim significant parts of profits from their franchisees. NAMCO's expansion and multiple new licenses issued since a moratorium was lifted in 2021 also adds to volume constraints that fuel retailers face. He also highlighted commercial bank practices which require charges on debit and credit card fuel purchases that further erodes profits for retailers that collectively employ up to 10,000 Namibians and ensure fuel availability in remote parts of the country, he said. On page 2 of the Republican, the two men that are being accused of the murder of Danielle Ferrari, who was stabbed to death at Avis Dam in Windhoek on 14 July 2020, are currently applying for bail at the Windhoek Magistrate Court. The investigating officer testified today and revealed that both men had made confessions and admitted to the murder, but now say that they were forced to do so. Some of the deceased's belongings were also found in their possession. They have been in custody since 24 November 2020. The bail application will continue on 1 August. Now let's move on over to Allgemeine Zeitung. On its front page, it reports NAMPOL investigator Maletsky testifies in the Lichtenstrasse trial about the events as Lichtenstrasse had described them during a police interrogation. He was part of the interrogation and, among other things, described statements made by the defendant. This, in turn, brought the trial to a standstill as a side interrogation must now be handled first. On its page 3, the Allgemeine Zeitung reports that the Hairspring Investments spokesperson did not provide information about green mining when the two companies are directly linked. Meanwhile, HI claims to have properly sealed the existing exploration wells and also signed contracts with all farmers. That brings us to the end of the first half of our newspaper review. We get into the second half when we return. Stay with us. The Namibian newspaper front page starts off the second half of the newspaper review. The Namibian newspaper reports that traditional authorities from northern Namibia are set to review the fines used to punish culprits who break the law. Namibians convicted in court for a crime can be punished again by the traditional authority. The fines currently in use, which were approved in 2004, include 15,000 Namibian dollars or 10 cows for murder and 4,500 Namibian dollars for adultery. The paper also reports that in just over 4 days, over 200 people have had their eyesight restored by Dr. Helena Ndume, who is conducting free eye operations at Ngela Hospital in Ohangwena region this week. On page 3 of the Namibia Institute of Mining and Technology, double murder accused Ernst Lichtenstrasser told police officers he was the shooter when questioned shortly after the institute's 2 top executives had been gunned down in Arandis in April 2019. A police detective testified in the Windhoek High Court yesterday. According to the Namibian, Lichtenstrasser told a group of officers on 18 April 2019 that he was not happy about the way NIMT Executive Director Eckhard Miller and his deputy had been running the institute, and that the duo had been forcing for his transfer to Keetmanshoop, which would have been a huge financial burden for him. Lichtenstrasser at the time allegedly confessed to being the shooter, adding that he cannot fool the police and that he was worried about what would happen to him and his family if he went to jail. After consultation with a lawyer, however, the paper reports that he had been advised to remain silent. He is denying guilt on 2 counts of murder and 6 further charges, including counts of possession of a 9mm pistol and ammunition without a license. Moving over to New Era, on its front page, it reports smuggling of fuel from Namibia to Angola has taken a nasty turn, according to New Era, as Namibian police officers and drivers commuting to fuel up their vehicles in Angola have allegedly become victims of attacks by Angolan fuel smugglers who are irked by the government's decision to tighten control over the illegal trade. Fuel smugglers armed with knives and pangas are threatening to attack Namibian police officers stationed along the Namibian-Angolan borderline and are attacking vehicles entering Angola. On page 3 of New Era, a sprawling cattle farm in the Kavango West region under the care of the Namibia Industrial Development Agency has been abandoned with livestock roaming around unattended while infrastructure has deteriorated, reports New Era. Moving over to Market Watch, Australia Securities Exchange listed Paladin Energy, the majority shareholder in Langer Heinrich uranium mine in Irongo, on Tuesday, announced its decision to return the mine that has been in a state of care maintenance since 2018 to production. Due to the pressure of poor global uranium prices, the mine ceased production in May 2018 and more than 300 workers were retrenched. The Australian mining company stated that its board has made the decision to return LHM to production, with first volumes targeted for the first quarter of 2024. We start off our economic news in Algeria, which will soon supply very big volumes of gas to Italy through a $4 billion US dollar deal. We highlight this and more stories from the world of economics after the break.
In Business 7, you get news on current economic, financial, and business matters in Namibia. The weekly show features interviews with experts and in-depth analysis of burning issues in a way that caters for ordinary Namibians and business connoisseurs alike. We crunch the numbers that matter, decipher statistics that shape Namibian lives, discuss smart money, and explore the impact of global development locally. Money makes the world go round, so catch us on NTV, oneup2.com, and the Facebook platforms of the Namibian Sun, Republikane, Allgemeine Zeitung, and Namibia Media Holdings. For news related or advertising queries, please contact B7 at synergy.com.na.
Starting off today's economic news, Algeria will supply very big volumes of gas to Italy through a $4 billion US dollar deal, President Abdulmajid Tebboune said on Monday, hailing a strategic partnership with Rome during a visit by Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi. The comments came as Tebboune welcomed Draghi in Algiers, where the Italian leader attended a joint economic summit between the two nations. Official Algerian sources said last week that state energy company Sonatrach would increase gas supplies to Italy by a further 4 billion cubic meters a year beyond the 21 billion cubic meters previously planned. The deal, signed with Total Energies and Occidental, comes as Algerian gas supplies become more important for southern Europe because of reduced exports from Russia after its invasion of Ukraine. Draghi, speaking after his meeting with Tebboune in Algiers, said Italy was a privileged partner of Algeria and that the increase in gas supply represented an acceleration of what was expected. Draghi said Algeria and Italy would also now work together to develop renewable energy sources, including green hydrogen, solar, wind, and geothermal energy. Algerian Prime Minister Ayman Ben Abdelrahman, speaking at the summit conference, said Algeria was Italy's largest trading partner in Africa and the Middle East, with trade between the two countries in 2021 amounting to $8.5 billion. For Algeria, tighter global energy markets have represented a major opportunity to turn the page on years of declining revenues that sharply reduced foreign currency reserves and led to unpopular fiscal tightening. Now, in our next story, the World Bank has expressed concern at the scale of economic freedom some public entities enjoy, arguing that this could lead to poor service delivery if not addressed. The bank raised these concerns in a recent country-specific diagnostic on Namibia. It noted the lack of competition big firms providing bulk services such as NAM Water and tourism operator Namibia Wildlife Resorts enjoy, saying this limits the future growth of privately owned companies. NWR is the only tourism operator in Namibia that may operate inside national parks. Community-managed conservancies have been granted some park access rights, but not the right to set up tourism lodge facilities inside the parks, the World Bank said. It noted that private firms are dependent on these government-owned monopolies for key inputs and support services such as port operations, aviation and bulk rail transport services, electricity, water, and telecommunications. Without competition, state-owned enterprises are unlikely to deliver these inputs and services efficiently, which undermines core government objectives such as improving competitiveness, economic diversification, growth, and provision of affordable, reliable, and accessible basic services, it said. The World Bank also questioned the environment in which private firms and public entities operate and said the playing field is unequal. Now let's take a look at the economic indicators. The Namibian dollar has declined in value when weighed against the euro and British pound, but maintains its value against these other major currencies. MTC stocks saw a 7.3% spike in prices on the NSX, while most of these prices remain unchanged. Paratus Namibia and Trustco Group Holdings stock prices saw an increase, Trustco Group stocks now selling at 55 cents. All these major commodities are down in price according to available data. After the break, we get into international news, and a Catholic priest abducted last week in Nigeria was found murdered, while 4 suspects have been arrested in connection with a tavern shooting in South Africa. These stories and more coming up in NMH at 1. You're still watching NMH at 1, and now let's take a look at the news from Africa and later on extend to the rest of the globe. Starting off, a Nigerian Catholic priest abducted last week was found murdered on Tuesday, while his colleague managed to escape from his captors in the northern state of Kaduna, the local diocese said. Fathers John Mark Chetnam and Donatus Cleophas were seized in the town of Lear when attending a parish function at Christ the King Catholic Church, Yadin Garu, last Friday. On Tuesday, the body of Chekdem was found, the Kafanchan diocese said in a statement, adding that he was brutally killed on the same day of his abduction. His burial is on Thursday. No one has claimed responsibility for the abduction. About a dozen priests have been kidnapped this year across Nigeria by gunmen who demand ransom payments. Nigerian security forces who are stretched fighting an Islamist insurgency in the northeast often fail to stop the attacks. Now, in our next story, KwaZulu-Natal police have arrested 4 suspects in connection with the shooting incident at Samkelisiwe Tavern and Restaurant in Sweetwaters, Pietermaritzburg. 4 people were shot dead and 8 others wounded after gunmen randomly shot at patrons at the popular tavern on Saturday, 9 July 2022. 2 suspects were initially arrested in connection with the shooting incident, but were later released due to lack of evidence. According to KZN police spokesperson Lieutenant Colonel Kobile Nkwala, the suspects were expected to appear in the Pietermaritzburg Magistrates Court on Wednesday. Last week, the KwaZulu-Natal Liquor Authority suspended the liquor license of the Samkelisiwe Tavern and Restaurant for a period of 3 months. The KZNLA said it had conducted an internal investigation that found that the tavern breached the security commitments of its license agreement. The KZN Liquor Authority found that security commitments made by the licensee were not adhered to as per the application document submitted. This resulted in the breach of the license condition set out by the authority, the organization said in a statement. Now, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has given the country's education and labor ministers 2 weeks to end the prolonged lecturers' strike. The country's academic staff union of universities asked its members to skip work on 14 February and have not returned since then. They are protesting against the government's failure to implement a 2009 deal that would see lecturers get better pay and improved facilities in institutions of higher learning. The union insists that their actions are in the best interests of the students who have to stay in school longer due to the disruption in the school calendar. Union officials and the government have been holding talks to find solutions to end the industrial action, but they have not been successful. Now, Sri Lanka has elected the Prime Minister as the country's new president after the president fled the country. The full story coming up on the other side of this break. Stay with us. Now, our first international news story takes us to Sri Lanka, and Sri Lankan MPs have elected Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe as the country's new president despite his unpopularity with the public. Mr. Wickremesinghe faces the task of leading the country out of its economic collapse and restoring public order after months of mass protests. He roundly defeated party rival Dallas Alaperuma with 134 votes to 82 in the parliamentary vote on Wednesday. Sri Lanka's ex-president Gotabaya Rajapaksa fled the country last week. He bolted to the Maldives and then Singapore after thousands of protesters stormed his presidential residence and other government buildings calling for his resignation. They had also called for Mr. Wickremesinghe's resignation, who was appointed prime minister in May. Protesters burnt down his private home and also stormed his prime ministerial office in Colombo in demonstrations against his leadership. Protesters have consistently been calling for the former Prime Minister, now President, to step down. However, Mr. Wickremesinghe has defied those calls. He automatically assumed the position of acting President after Mr. Rajapaksa fled, and his victory on Wednesday means he will carry out the rest of the presidential term until November 2024. Sri Lanka is effectively bankrupt and facing acute shortages of food, fuel, and other basic supplies. In our next story, Chinese officials have apologized to residents of a lockdown community in Guangzhou for removing the locks on the doors to their homes. A number of people at the apartment complex in the southern Chinese city had recently tested positive for COVID. Officials were searching for close contacts who may have been hiding in an attempt to avoid being moved to a quarantine center. China maintains a strict zero COVID policy and quarantines are common. Those affected by the break-ins have been told that they will be compensated for the damage. According to the Tianmu news outlet, the locks were broken on the front doors of at least 84 homes by grassroots officials and community workers. The incident happened on 10 July, soon after several people at the complex had tested positive for the virus. According to the Global Times newspaper, residents were moved to a centralized quarantine facility, but some close contacts were found hiding in their houses, leading to searches of other homes for hidden residents. Video was captured of some of the break-ins, which sparked an angry outcry, with many calling for those involved to be arrested for illegal entry, given that trespassing falls under China's criminal law. The district government in Guangzhou's Liwan district apologized yesterday, saying the break-ins deviated from the requirements of epidemic prevention. We're now going to take a quick ad break, and when we return, we take a look at the news headlining the sports scene. Stay with us.
AgriMonitor is jou weeklikse landboukundige program wat jou die jongste nuus in die landbouverwante bedryf en onderwerpe wat daaraan gekoppel is, bring. Vir enige advertensie of nuusverwante navrae, kontak agrimonitor@synergy.com.na.
Now let's get into the world of sport. Namibia's Beatrice Masilingi is out of the World Championships after apparently pulling up with an injury and clocking 24.78 seconds in the semi-final of the 200 meters in the United States of America this morning. USA's Tamara Clark won the heat 21.95 seconds, followed by Dinah Asher-Smith with 21.96 seconds. Elaine Thompson-Hera was third in a time of 21.97 seconds. In our next story, gold medalist Helalia Johannes is in satisfactory form ahead of the 2022 Commonwealth Games, her coach Robert Kahuena said. Potentially one of her final major competitions, Commonwealth gold medalist Helalia Johannes is gearing up for the Birmingham Games with her eyes on the top prize. The 2022 Commonwealth Games kick off in Birmingham, England on 28 July and will finish on 8 August. Helalia won the gold medal at the last Commonwealth Games that were held in the Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia. In 2018, with an impressive run, she was 3 years younger than she is now, but she remains a potential podium athlete at the upcoming Games. Soccerman Fistball Club will play host to the 4th round of the Bank Windhoek Fistball League this Saturday. This will be the final round of matches for the league before the playoffs, with 7 adult teams, 4 under-16 teams and 4 under-13 teams competing on Saturday. Khoi and Fistball Club 1, CFC 2, Sports Club Windhoek 1 and SKW 2 will be up against each other in Group A. According to the Fistball Association of Namibia's media officer Helmo Mintz, only the first 4 teams will qualify for the A-League playoffs. The lower-ranked teams will compete for the B-League title on 24 September. Now let's take a quick ad break, and when we return, we take a look at the international sports scene.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, welcome to another exciting edition.
Kicking off our international sports stories, another chapter in the personal rivalry between former Liverpool teammates Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah will play out in Rabat on Thursday when the annual African Award winners are announced. Mane was a key figure in the Senegal team that defeated Salah, captained Egypt in the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations final and in a 2022 World Cup playoff. Both the African title decider in Cameroon and the Qatar eliminator in Senegal were won by the Teranga Lions after penalty shootouts. Main scored in each shootout, while the final was decided before Salah could take his kick and he blazed wide in the playoff. Should Main win in the Moroccan capital, he will become the first Bayern Munich star to be voted the top African footballer. Robert Lewandowski is joining Barcelona in a €50 million deal until 2027, the Spanish club said on Tuesday. Barcelona released a statement confirming the move 3 days after both clubs announced that a deal in principle had been struck for the Polish striker to move to La Liga. Barcelona and Bayern Munich have arrived at an agreement for the transfer of Robert Lewandowski for a total of €45 million plus €5 million in variables, Barcelona said. The player will sign a contract with the club for the next 4 seasons. In our next story, former France centre Wesley Fofana said on Monday he was retiring as his body could no longer keep up with the demands of professional rugby. Fofana, 34, who spent his whole senior career with Clermont, played the last of his 48 tests in August 2019. He made his international debut in the 2012 Six Nations, scoring in a 30-12 win over Italy, and followed up with further tries in his next 3 matches against Scotland, Ireland and England. We're now going to take a quick ad break, and when we return, we get into our highlights. If you're just joining us, we'll bring you up to speed with the highlights from today's broadcast. Getting into our highlights, starting off, Sri Lankan MPs have elected Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe as the country's new president, despite his unpopularity with the public. A Nigerian Catholic priest abducted last week was found murdered on Tuesday, while his colleague managed to escape from his captors in the northern state of Kaduna, the local diocese said. Namibia's Beatrice Masilingi is out of the World Championships after apparently pulling up with an injury and clocking 24.78 seconds in the semi-final of the 200 meters in the United States of America this morning. USA's Tamara Clark won the heat with a time of 21.95 seconds. Those have been your highlights. Thank you for staying with NMH at 1 and spending your lunch hour with me, Diana Master. Remember to tune in every weekday at 1 p.m. as we take you through the latest happenings in Namibia and beyond. But for now, let's stick around for Regional Review, which highlights the news happening across Namibia's regions. Stay with us.
Good day, viewers, and welcome back to Regional Review. My name is Monique Adams, and I'm your South correspondent for Namibia Media Holdings. Today, we're celebrating World Jump Day, which is many ideas are floated to help combat global warming, and World Jump Day is one of them. The aim of this day is to shift the orbit of the Earth to extend daylight hours and create a more standard climate throughout the world. But hey, it's fun, so let's jump. That's it. So let's get right into today's show. First up in our news segment, last week Governor Alita Frederick made a remark and introduced the Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform, Honorable Anna Ndahamelela Shiweda, at the inauguration of the new NAM water pilot rural desalination plant in Botany. She said that she was very delighted to witness the introduction of this technology to Botany, which was initiated during her tenure as a chairperson of the Botany Village Council, and at that time she was representing the council on the technical committee of this project. 6 months after her appointment as governor, she had the privilege to witness the official handover of this site for the construction phase to commence. Therefore, she is very happy for being able to play her part in every stage of this journey until this dream has been realized. She further said that in many parts of Namibia, the groundwater quality is affected by a high concentration of salts, such as fluoride and nitrates. Botany residents who had no choice but to use salty water for household purposes for many years are now in a position to enjoy the sweet taste of potable drinking water. Therefore, she expressed her gratitude to all the stakeholders who have contributed positively towards the realization of this project. Next up, since back to school commenced on Monday, Keetmanshoop Secondary School welcomed their students from their holiday and also introduced the top 10 of the first semester. So let's take a look at a few highlights captured. Monday morning, the Keetmanshoop Secondary School welcomed their learners back to school for the new semester under the motto, "An Attitude of Gratitude." And they also congratulated to all the learners who made it to the top 10 in each grade this semester. The principal said, "This semester is another opportunity for each learner to restart and make meaning of their lives and academics. We look forward to better grades. We wish every learner a fruitful semester. Remember, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can." Now we move on to the 3-day Keetmanshoop Arts and Dance Academy 3-day workshop. Few highlights that were captured. So let's take a look. This is day 1, mixed media drawing workshop facilitated and made possible by the Namibian Arts Association. Young people from Noordoever, TES and Keetmanshoop joined the Arts and Dance Academy for the 3-day workshop. And in unfortunate news, South African man dies on the TES and Marienthal Road. 69-year-old South African man Cornelius Jacobus Koen died on Saturday after he was involved in an accident that occurred between Marienthal and TES on Saturday at about 1:29 in the afternoon. According to the police, the driver, a 42-year-old South African woman, lost control of the vehicle while she was trying to avoid colliding with another vehicle that was traveling in the opposite direction. The vehicle then went off-road, overturned, and rolled over once. The police said that there were 5 South African occupants, aged 9 to 69, in the vehicle. Koen died at the scene, and the others sustained serious injuries and were taken to the Khomas State Hospital. The deceased next of kin has been informed. Now we move over to the Hartab region, where the Directorate of Health in Hartab region concluded a TB and HIV data review for the 3 health districts. 1,800 people were screened during its recently concluded mass TB screening campaign, exceeding the target of 3,700, and diagnosed 80 new TB cases and 12 new HIV positive cases, and administered 141 COVID-19 doses of the COVID-19 vaccines. At the same gathering, Mariental District was awarded as the best performing district for achieving 90% treatment success rate, new and relapse, with 91% treatment success rate for bacteriological confirmed cases, while Reboth District came second. Delivering a message on behalf of the Director of Health, the Head of Special Programs in the region, Rebecca Amunyela, thanked the national and regional teams, Governor's Office, as well as the Hartab Regional Governor for supporting the screening campaign. The Hartab community is urged to encourage people on TB and HIV treatment to continue their medication, and for the community to use all precautionary measures to prevent TB and HIV infections.
The Sederland publication focuses on the southern region of Namibia, highlighting the activities that have an impact on different cultures and circumstances on the communities, as well as focusing on the role players responsible for the economic and social upliftment of these communities. The Sederland provides opportunities to share your accommodation specials, retail specials, news content for brand awareness, motoring specials. The Sederland is inserted in the Republican and distributed countrywide. Contact Republican at synergy.com.na.
Well, that has unfortunately brought us to the end of today's news segment. Now we head over to our interview. We got to speak to Ingo Klitske, who is the owner of the Schützenhauser guest house, as well as the governor. It pleads to the public to make sure that you vote Keetmanshoop Dorp van die Jaar.
Keetmanshoop is genomineer as die dorp van die jaar van Kwela. Daarom wil ek elke inwoner van Keetmans, nie net van Keetmans nie, maar van die Garra-streek uitnooi om te stem vir Keetmanshoop as die dorp van die jaar. So wil ek ook nie uitlaat al die ander 13 streke in ons land om vir Keetmanshoop te stem as die dorp van die jaar. Dit gaan nie net oor Keetmanshoop inwoners of die Garra-streek nie, dit gaan oor Namibia. En Keetmanshoop is ook 'n suidelike dorpie wat gevind word in Namibia, so dis die verantwoordelikheid van al die Namibiërs om dan vir Keetmanshoop te stem as die dorp van die jaar. Baie dankie.
Goeiemiddag al my mede-Namibiërs. My naam is Ingo Klitske. Ek is van die Schützenhauser Guesthouse in Keetmanshoop. Soos julle almal weet, is Keetmanshoop genomineer om as dorp van die jaar mee te ding in die internasionale kompetisie. Dit is nou wat Suid-Afrika aanbetref. Daar is 8 dorpe in Suid-Afrika en net Keetmanshoop in Namibia. Ek wil graag 'n beroep doen aan elke Namibiër, elke werkgewer, om ons in ons grootse poging te ondersteun. Dit gaan nie oor Keetmanshoop nie. Dit gaan oor Namibia, waarvan Keetmanshoop maar net 'n dorpie is. En ons wil hê almal moet deelneem en ons help om daar te kom waar ons wil wees. Ons gaan uit die aard van die saak 'n prys wen, maar elkeen wil graag 'n prys wen. Ongelukkig kan net Keetmanshoop hom wen. So help ons om daar te kom. Al wat jy doen is, Jy bel 33157, dit kos R1.50 per SMS. En na jy die nommer ingesit het, tik jy net Keetmans Hoop. Jou stem sal aanvaar word en ook die 9, 10 of 15 wat jy agterna vir ons gaan stuur. Jy mag tot 30 stuur. So help ons en kom ons wys vir hulle, wanneer dit saak maak, staan ons Namibiërs by mekaar. Baie dankie aan almal.
Keetmans Hoop. Keetmans Hoop word gesien as die hoofstad van suidelike Namibië en is veral bekend vir die kokerboomwoude wat tussen die ysterklipformasies floreer. Die Sendingkerk, ou kliphospitaal en poskantoor dien as herinneringe van hierdie ou Duitse dorp se geskiedenis. Behalwe vir die restaurante en oornagplekke in die dorp, is die Keetmans Hoop Museum, as ook die plaaslike kelder en distilleerdery 'n besoek werd, met alles van turksvye, dadels en druiwe wat hier verbou word.
Rehoboth is sunny and mild during the day this week with lows of 2 degrees at night. Sunny and pleasant weather is forecast for Mariental with slightly higher temps forecast for this weekend. Keetmans Hoop is cool this week with patchy clouds forecast for today. Karasburg is chilly today, but temperatures will rise significantly in the run-up to the weekend when sunny skies are expected. Finally, Lutritz is sunny and breezy, but will be warmer as from tomorrow.
The Talent Tech Focus will be published across our 3 daily publications, Republikein, Namibian Sun, and Allgemeine Zeitung, offering nationwide distribution of A3 tabloid copies and additional coverage through a high-gloss tabloid-style magazine. The Talent Tech Focus will showcase the front-runners in the telecommunication and technology fields, offering innovation to the local market and aiming to showcase both established and emerging players in the areas of tech, software, and digital product and service provision.
After this, I'll make sure to send my SMS to make sure Keetmans Hoop grabs the win. So that has brought us to the end of today's regional review. I hope you found it insightful and informative. But for now, it's a goodbye. See you next week, Tuesday, same time, same place.